Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional, a multifaceted individual from Norway, Silvie Le Muzic. Silvie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Silvie is a global systems coach. She's a facilitator, she's an architect, and she's the co-founder of the Empire of Love. So, Silvie, tell me a little bit about your own background and what was the inspiration to transition from architecture to coaching?
How much time do you have? So, so like you, I'm fascinated by, multicultures and all kinds of languages and, how come we are who we are and how,
Hmm.
how we're coded. And so my mother is French and my dad is Norwegian and I grew up in Texas.
Wow.
So already there's like, as they say in French, bon mélange, a good mix of strange things.
Hmm.
So I also grew up in the wake of the Second World War. My father was not so damaged. My mother was extremely damaged. She lived on
Hmm.
the west coast of France, and so she was basically just super traumatized. And as you know, that that generation just after the war in 1945, they just went. She was a child,
Yep.
and they just shut up. They didn't
Hmm.
speak about it, but it rippled out in their to their children, obviously.
Hmm.
And so that took me, so I was troubled. I was a traumatized child. Not because my mother was an evil person, but because she didn't have access
Hmm.
to helping herself. So that became my infinite curiosity, right? So I knew that I was attracted to beauty. That was sort of my solace. So through music, through dance, I dance ballet, and then it turned into architecture because architecture has, in a way, all of that
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
itself.
Hmm.
And then, you know, as you also know, architecture is very complex. It involves a lot of money, it involves a lot of egos, and certainly a lot of different professions that has to
Hmm.
come together to make a beautiful and a functional and the right product.
Hmm.
That isn't easy. So to have that agency to see that through, that requires something from you. And I understood through all these years. So I've been in construction in different roles for over 30 years. But I've understood that it wasn't enough. I didn't get the results I wanted. I didn't
Hmm.
get the processes I wanted. As all this power struggle and these pointed elbows, and it was really hard. And so I thought, what can I do? And so because of the trauma experience and
Hmm.
this, I thought I need to learn some new skills.
Hmm.
And to me, it became coaching.
Wow.
And coaching is so wonderful because you learn to ask the open questions and to listen with
Hmm.
all you have through all the dimensions. You know this, you're a coach yourself. Yeah.
Fascinating. What an amazing story. And thank you for sharing it, Sylvie. Oh, my next question for you is how do you define conscious human evolution in the context of your coaching?
Yeah. I'm so glad you picked that up. And because of your question, I think I need to change the word because so consciousness, that as I understand it, is all that exists. It's the source and creator of reality.
Mhm.
It is indivisible, it's omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, and consciousness does not necessarily involve or require awareness. And
Mm.
so I think I need to change to awareness because I believe that human evolution through awareness
Mm.
is crucial towards a regenerative version of our future. So
Right.
conscious, we get to, or conscious or awareness, then we get to skill up and apply our unique energy purposely for ourselves, our
Mhm.
work, and
Mhm.
in relationship with others and all of life.
Mm. That's
While daring to be visible, vulnerable, and sovereign, because
mm.
you have to keep yourself in there too.
Yep. Great response. And can you also tell me about your experience as a positive intelligence coach and how it has
Yes.
influenced your own coaching sessions?
Yeah. So, you know, um, So I have three coaching trainings, and the first one is called co-active,
Mm.
and it means that we just have different roles. So there's no power over, it's power with. So it's co-creation, all of it. And I love that. And that's how it is in all architecture projects and really everything you do. So that taught me that we are in a relationship with everything, even if it's fly, even if it's when you buy your chai in the morning, or you can choose to have a social interaction, or you can choose to just close yourself off. So that's the co-active part. Then the next is the organizational and relationship systems coaching, and so it's coaching relationship systems, and through that I also expanded that relationship view, and taking it. It's sacred to me now. It's just to understand that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Mm.
So you get to influence that whole. You are influenced by the whole, and you are influenced by every part. So you get to decide, who you want to be in that dance. And then positive intelligence, then that is founded by the guy, so Shirzad Shamin. He's originally from Iran
Mm.
and he emigrated to US, and he's been to Stanford. He's been a researcher, a business developer, everything. But he also has the same training I do from Coactive, and he led Coactive US for 6 years. So I was
Mm.
curious, what does he mean with positive intelligence? So I followed him and started to train with him, and I've done it for 2.5 years now, because it allows a language
Mm.
that is take your brain to the gym.
Yeah.
We think, oh, we got to go to the gym and work
Mhm.
out, but we don't necessarily know that we have to take our
Correct.
brain to the gym. And
Mm.
that is when and in your philosophy in the Vedas, this is what all about this.
Correct.
It's how you master your thoughts and your emotions. And that is not a straight line. You have
Mm.
to understand what saboteurs talks you have in your head. And then you have to, at will and at skill, transcend that to something that's more productive for you. Does it
Makes
resonate?
a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how would you apply the principle of inner work in your own coaching? Inner work is world work, is what you mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, that comes from Arnold Mandel, that world
Mm.
work. It's so beautiful. I feel you're doing world work
Mm.
with your podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
So world work, applying applying spiritual and applying everything that we are inside. We can call it inner tech, I
Mm.
think.
Mm.
Because in this today we talk about, we talk a lot about technology, but our inner technology is the finest of all. And um it is this composition, of course, of yeah, everything that you are. So anyway, so the finest technology we have is innate. We are being breathed. We don't even decide our breath. It's being
Mm.
done for us.
Yeah.
The digestion of food is being done for us. The
Mm.
growth, the repair of cells, the repairs of damage, it's being done for us. So
Mm.
obviously there's
Yeah.
something bigger.
Mm.
Not everyone thinks that way, of course. So when we go into coaching, my first job is to figure out, or just listen to them.
Mm.
Where are you? Where is
Yeah.
the system at? What level of consciousness are we dealing with?
Mm.
And nothing is bad, nothing is good. It's just to map it. So you have a world map behind you. And this is what I do when I start coaching, is to,
Mm.
you know, through the open questions and to be with the client, whether it's an individual or a system, where are they at? And
Mm.
then, we go from there. So I go like
Fascinating.
this with my hand because it's always something.
Absolutely. No, no, it's fascinating. And I think you obviously have got a lot of exposure to very, very many different cultures. And you have also seemed to have studied a lot of the scriptures. Uh,
Yes.
but moving on, Sylvie, what role does emotional intelligence play in the coaching relationships that you build?
Yeah. So emotional intelligence. So intelligences, we have so many intelligences, and there have a lot of people, a lot of scholars have tried to define them. But I think we can always expand them. So emotional intelligence means that, we have a body, a vessel that's over 70% water. So, and everything in the universe vibrates.
Yeah.
Also our bodies, it vibrates. And
Mm.
so there's a resonance that we can latch onto when we have sufficient awareness and we understand what's going on, right? So we can gravitate towards people and ideas and work.
Mm.
And so um the point is to feel that, to learn to feel, to understand that feelings is your best navigator. So emotions, back to positive intelligence, if you're hijacked by your negative emotions,
Mm.
you will emanate, aggression or anxiety, or you won't have access to your emotions. And
Right.
then, half of your capacity is gone, basically. And in our world, we have valued the intellect, the thinking, more than the emotions. And that is starting to shift. I would say it has shifted.
Mm.
And then there's something else. There is the RSI. It's the relational systems intelligence. So
Mm.
it's the relational emotions. So if you, just like us now, we are in a new relationship system. We have never talked before. We might not never talk again, but we are
Mm.
creating something new that is rippling
Absolutely.
out to the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ether.
Mm. Amazing.
So yeah,
Amazing.
so that emotional intelligence, it's also a resonance dance with the clients, and also educate them a little bit so that they
Mm.
can tap into and relax into that. Oh, what I
Yeah.
have is of value.
Mm. Amazing. Amazing. And how do you guide your coachees to integrate mind, body, and soul in a balanced and aligned manner?
Yeah. So it's a process, obviously, and some are more open than others. Somebody wants to come and get a quick fix. I want to solve this, and then we start there. We go there, because it can be very painful for them. It can be something, a shock in their life. It can be a crisis. It can be something big. And then we have to start. I go like this now because it's like a golden
Mhm.
threads of
Mhm.
intelligence that they
Yeah.
have, and to sort of, look at the weave with them and
Mm.
find out. So how, what else do you see? It's always a what else. And, people, they just relax into that, and they love it because it means that nothing is wrong. Nothing is
Mm.
really wrong. It's
Yeah.
just see everything.
Mm. How amazing. How amazing. Can you also talk a little bit about breathwork and yoga? I mean, you mentioned the Vedas very briefly, and you were able to make a few points about the Vedas, so obviously you've read some of it. How do you incorporate breathwork and yoga into your coaching practice?
So I already mentioned that we have this innate intelligence, or we are being breathed
Yeah.
by God, or
Mm.
whatever you call God, source. And so for a lot of my life, I didn't breathe.
Mm.
I didn't have, I was nothing here. I
Yeah.
just basically held my breath because of the trauma. I didn't know how to breathe.
Mm.
And if I may, I want to tell you the story
Yeah,
that
please.
allowed me to breathe. Because so my daughter, I have a daughter who's 21, and she was her gift from me for a confirmation gift, or yeah, was a language school, 3 weeks in Ireland.
Hmm.
And I didn't want her to travel alone at 15, so I followed her there, and then I went back and picked her up. And as I was in the airport in Oslo, where I'm sure you've been, there was I was buying water after security, and I remember I was wearing a white dress, and behind me stands a black man wearing black, and I just felt him. And so we bought our water, and he said, "Hi, I'd love to talk to you, and I would like to tell you that you don't breathe."
Mm.
I said, "You are absolutely right." And he
Mm.
says, "I can also see that you have a lot of sorrow in you. May I hug you? And may I teach you to breathe?" And
Mm.
it was like,
Oh.
absolutely. And so he taught me to breathe. And
Mm.
I'd been at that point, I've been doing a lot of yoga, but I was in grief, so I didn't breathe. And because he was there at the right moment, and what he also did that was so embarrassing, he picked me up in the airport,
Mm-hmm.
and he just said, "I think you need to be held." And I just let myself do it because I trusted him.
Yeah.
And so it became a very beautiful moment. And it lasted
Mm.
for a few minutes only, of course, but
Amazing.
it was my key to breathing. So breath work, learning to breathe, learning to see the, or, understand the potential in breath can eradicate your fear,
Mm.
can get yourself back to alignment, can get you to connect with others, can
Correct.
take you out of reaction at any point, can allow spaciousness in your thoughts. I mean, breath is everything.
Absolutely. And you're so right, Sylvie. I mean, I do a lot of breathing, I do a lot of yoga myself, and
Yes.
breathing is everything about our existence.
Yes.
So you said you articulated, and I love the example of this gentleman who taught you how to breathe at Oslo Airport. What an amazing story. Moving
Yeah.
on, I've often seen people who talk about cultivating deeper self-awareness and also, building it into their own emotional intelligence. What would you recommend for such individuals?
Sorry, can I pause for a
Yeah,
second
yeah,
because mine went back to yoga. I have to say something about yoga since we're
please.
both practicing. So yoga has saved my life
Mm,
because I used to dance classical ballet, and with classical ballet, everything is in violation with the body.
right.
It's so hard on the body.
Mm,
But yoga is, and it's also from, I'm so amazed where it comes from. It's so old, it's like 8,000 years old. And the
yeah,
purpose of it was to allow the body to still before meditation so you can go
correct.
into yourself.
Yeah,
But for me, it's become my way to flexibility and breathing. And I do the Tibetans. I've done it for 21 years and it aligns your chakras, right? So I wanted
yeah,
to put in a word about the chakras because the chakras are energy centers in our bodies, and it's both in our bodies, invisible, of course, but also in our energy fields. We have
correct.
seven, actually.
Yeah.
And so, and all the, your culture, has been intelligent for so early.
Mm,
So that's what I'm so grateful for from everything I've learned from India about that. And I'm strongly fascinated by your culture, obviously, as is most Westerners. And that's the greatest gift to the West
correct.
is your Vedic tradition.
Mm,
And so back to the breath and the body, in our times where we stress and we torment ourselves with doing everything so fast,
mm,
this is the best thing we can do
mm.
for
Amazing.
ourselves.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. How do you help your clients to tap into their intuition and trust their own inner knowing?
Yeah. So that too, as everything, is a process. And it has to do with, understanding that they are innately intelligent.
Mm,
They are innate systems intelligence, meaning they understand so much more than they give them that I say we, it has
mm,
that we give ourselves credit for.
mm.
So the more we breathe, the more aware and spaciousness we create for
Yeah,
ourselves
yeah.
in our thoughts and in the feeling in our bodies, the more access we have
Mm,
to intelligence, to consciousness, to what's going on, to the ether, what's going on. The more we understand from what we read, the more we can, sympathize and empathize and be inspired by what transpires in our
mm.
everyday.
Yeah.
So that is a process with the client, and most people get so relieved.
Mm,
Oh, can I do this? Can I pause? Can I
mm.
breathe?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, is it important? Oh, I want to do more of that. So
Mm.
they incorporate more of stuff for themselves, or little practices or little pauses that allows them to access more of themselves.
Absolutely. You're so right, whether you talk of the chakras, whether you talk of breathing, whether you talk of yoga, these are all ways of for each one of us to be able to really rediscover our own bodies, get to know
Mm,
our own bodies, and that's very important. But my next question for you, Sylvie, is how do you work with highly sensitive individuals,
mm,
given your own experience as a highly sensitive person? And I must
yes.
tell you, I learned this term when I was reading about you.
Oh, goody. So I'm so glad you learned about it because t about 20% of the population are highly sensitive. I
Mm,
will say that it's going up because um, being an HSP means that when other people have a regular antenna, you
mm,
have a satellite
mm.
going on. So you take in everything,
Yeah.
take in everything, whether you know it or not. It affects you whether you know it or not. And it means that it's hard to differentiate what is yours and what is others.
Mm.
I'm sure everybody can recognize this,
Yeah.
but the highly sensitive must learn mm, that it's okay, for example, not to like crowds, or it's okay not to like loud music, or
Mm.
that I'm sensitive to certain frequencies, or certainly to a lot of food. It doesn't, I have a sensitive system. It doesn't work for me to eat meat.
Mm.
It doesn't work.
Correct.
And in our times, we shouldn't either. So that's that at that point is fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's that awareness then to understand that, hey, it might be an innate trait in you. Take Elaine Aron's test, or Julie Bjelland is another one who's taken over her
Yeah.
tradition. So you can learn to work with that as well. So it's more like a skill set, and it can also be a superpower,
Right.
because what happens is that, I can read systems in a nanosecond sometimes, or most if I'm calm myself, and then I know how to contribute, then I know what not to say, and then I understand what they're ready for. So instead of being wrong or different, then it can just be, hey, turning this into my superpower. But it does require a skill set that you need to work up.
Amazing. Silvie, we have time for two more questions for you. My
Yes.
next question is, how do your own or how does your own background in architecture and systems intelligence shape your approach to coaching?
I think that is my cocktail, obviously. And what I didn't tell you is that I also started a PhD work to bridge the two.
Wow.
Because I think that it's the same thing. We are always in processes because we want to get important work done. And architecture, to me, as a trade, is still, I'm in love with it. I'm in love with space and light and materials. I'm not in love with the profession because it's so hard I feel that nobody asks for quality anymore. No, everybody wants, a fast buck, and we don't have time or we can't afford in our times to think like that, because we need to make the world circular. So that's how it informs, my coaching is to put all of my experience around the built environment and the thinking as a whole into coaching, and to preach about it to anybody who wants to hear, because it's actually a big relief, because we need everybody's intelligences, we need everybody's hearts, and we need to latch on to this Earth's intelligence that allow us to do the right thing for the future.
Amazing. And my last question for you, can you tell me how you help your clients harness their unique energy signature for personal and professional growth?
So I think everything we've spoken about so far sort of funnels into that question. And it means that, the less reactive you are or repressive, some people don't say anything. They don't have access to their emotions. So the point is to fish out what is your passion, what your passion is, what your heart tells you, what you really want to say and do. And then create an allowance for your innate beauty and intelligence is needed in the world. So it has to go through you. You live your life, and only you can do you. But we can always ask for help. We can be in communities, we can be in relationships that nurture that. And so that we expand and to be more, do more, and just give more, basically.
Absolutely. Very well said. And on that note, Silvie, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me. I think as were speaking about so many different aspects of coaching, I went back to the Gita, and I'm sure you've heard of the Gita, and it's often been said that Lord Krishna was the first coach in the world because of what he spoke in the Gita to Arjun. And as I was speaking to you, I could see that you were drawing upon so many of the Indic scriptures. And it was just so fascinating. I mean, this is probably the first conversation I've had with a coach who has delved so deeply into so many different aspects of not just coaching and not giving an answer, which are, or doing a 360 or doing whatever else, but actually drawing upon life experiences. And I think you've done that really beautifully. Thank you so much for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. I'm honored.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.